Mitchell, Executive Director of THT, and I could not be happier to be standing in front of a live audience and a full house. Thank you so much. As you may know, Town Hall Theater creates a wide range of its own productions, but what you might not know is that we're also the proud home to more than a dozen resident companies, including the Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival. Each brings an array of unique experiences to this regional theater, including plays, live music, opera, talks, classes, musicals, of course films, and much more. And I encourage you, when you have a chance, to check out our box office listings downstairs and get a sense of what's coming up next, which ranges from an upcoming feature-length film screening of Candide and to a wonderful musical performance of The Bangtons. But back to the main event. I've had the pleasure of knowing Middlebury New Filmmaker Festival producer Lloyd Commissar since the early days when he was hatching this plan for the first festival. And from the moment I met Lloyd, it was immediately clear that this man's hard work, dedication, creativity, and community-minded spirit would catapult this festival to an incredible level, which is exactly what's happened. Lloyd's efforts, combined with the considerable talents of artistic director Jay Craven, have made MNFF a flagship event for Town Hall Theater and a crown jewel of our community. Welcome back to live events. Enjoy the fest, and thank you for all your support of the arts. Without further ado, I would like to introduce Lloyd Commissar and give him a big high five.
I printed them out. We're not doing extemporaneous. Hello everybody and welcome back. It has been a long 2 years, hasn't it, since we last gathered here at Town Hall Theater. I'm so thrilled to be here, honestly, with all of you, to reconnect and rekindle the spirit of the Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival, a celebration of first and second time filmmakers from around the world. I'm also kind of thrilled to see my teddies again. Thank you to Vermont Teddy Bear for doing these beautiful statues, and also to Lou Knott Metalworks for this gorgeous stand that he created for us several years ago. I'm thrilled to see them back live. They really are very handsome. All right, Lisa, thank you for your kind introduction. The feeling is mutual. Simple as that. You're immensely talented. Really enjoy working with you. We're delighted to be reopening Town Hall Theater with you, and also wish you and Doug and the whole remarkable team at THT great success in the months ahead. Now, speaking of team, I want to introduce our incredible and intrepid MNFF staff, the people who have truly made this festival happen. You know I mean that. Please come on up, folks, and give them a round of applause. Mitchell on the far left, Sophie Hockman next to her, Monroe McLaren, and Dan Levesque. They represent the very best of teamwork and focus and commitment. Could not do this without them. I truly mean that. Thank you for all you have done, folks. Thank you. If you're wandering around Fest and you have questions and you see one of these folks, just ask them, they have the answers, for sure. So I always make a huge deal about our sponsors every year, and I think rightly so, but this year is particularly special for two reasons. First, 2020 was a very stressful and difficult year for so many nonprofit arts organizations here in Vermont, as our traditional sources of income withered. But with the help of the Vermont Arts Council, Vermont Humanities, the Vermont Community Foundation, and many other grant makers, we persevered and brought you MNFF 6 online. And I want to commend Jay Craven for putting together a brilliant lineup last year and doing all these Q&As, which were magnificent. I thought we did a really good job. But as we moved into 2021 and decided to go in person and on the ground with our 7th annual fest, the local businesses of this beautiful and caring community rallied to support us and stepped up their commitments and contributions. My enormous and heartfelt thanks to all of you, my sponsors. Without you, there is no festival. So could our sponsors please stand for a truly well-deserved round of applause. And the second reason that this year is special is up on the screen. For the first time since our inaugural year in 2015, the Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival has a presenting sponsor, IPJ Real Estate, a true leader in this community in so many ways. IPJ has been in our corner as a sponsor from the very beginning of the fest, but their support has risen to a whole new level. And with this long-term presenting sponsorship, which I treasure. So I would like to ask Amy Ryan, IPJ's generous and forward-thinking owner, to please come to the stage, share some thoughts. And as she does, please give her a rousing round of applause for all the love and support she has shown so many of our nonprofit.
I always have to have prepared marks, otherwise I ramble and repeat myself too many times. So it's heartwarming to see top half of everybody's face tonight. What a year. Thank you all for coming out to enjoy the festival. In this uneasy time, we're really thrilled that you've made the choice to support the arts and the Middlebury New Filmmaker Festival. It's quite an extraordinary event for our small town, as I'm sure you can all imagine, those who are here and those all the time, and those who have come to visit. So a little bit about who we are. For those of you that are new to Middlebury or are visiting for the festival, IPJ is a small real estate firm. We're located right on Main Street. We have 4 active brokers and 3 support staff. What's important to us, we've found success in our philosophy, which is to be honest and fair with everyone, to be kind and understanding, and to be competent and professional. We've built our reputation on these very attributes, and it's rewarded us well. We are incredibly grateful to the community that supports our business, and we're thrilled to be able to give back to the community by making donations to nearly 30 organizations each year. Some of our gift is in the form of volunteer hours on local boards. Some of it is boots on the ground volunteerism, and some of it's a financial contribution. We believe in helping people achieve their goals, the real estate ones anyway. We're not training any marathon runners. We aim to provide our clients and customers with information and guidance they need to make the right decision for them. When someone refers to us as salespeople, we sort of cringe. No offense to the salespeople in the audience, but it's just not how we see ourselves. We're relationship builders. We're trusted resources. We're networking experts. We're a friendly companion on the path that you're on. I'd like to acknowledge for a moment the members of our firm that are here tonight, brokers Sarah Peluso and Courtney DeBishop. And our very own artistic director and marketing manager, Polly Rain, who produces all of the artistic work that you see that IPJ comes out. Now, how did we get right here on stage at the festival? This is a little bit repetitive. Lisa had the same comments. Lloyd just alluded to it. Many years ago, when Lloyd and I were having breakfast right next door at the diner, he ran this idea of a film festival past me. He could not have been more enthusiastic and animated, if you can imagine that. Meanwhile, I had never been to a film festival and didn't really like going to the movies. But as Lloyd described the event, what it might entail, the parties, the movies, the venues, all I could think about was the people. And I thought about people coming to our town, staying in our inns, shopping in our stores, eating in our restaurants. Our philanthropic focus for this town is pretty simple. What can we do to help expose this quaint rural town to people with an appreciation for what we have to offer? How can we help it make it a better place to live, work, and play for the people who are already here? We immediately and enthusiastically endorsed Lloyd and his film festival ideas and agreed to support the festival. We got behind it big time this year, and we've thoroughly enjoyed every opportunity to continue to sponsor and endorse the festival and the people that make it happen. Thank you again for making the trip out tonight, and please enjoy the shows.
Thank you, Amy. And before I go on, I just want to acknowledge Mike and Lynn McKenna for their support, as noted on this card tonight. Thank you so much for your generosity in supporting our showing and showing up. You guys can come and take our friends away now. I think it's a good moment. The Teddies have finished their cameo for tonight. They'll be back on closing night. I urge you to come when the awards will be given out, and there'll be joy all around when you receive one of these. We're getting plenty of help. Most of our outstanding MNFF board members are here tonight, so please acknowledge Jay Craven, our festival's artistic director. Jay Perini, who is here tonight. Jay Perini. Jerry Ann Smart, where are you, Jerry? Thank you. The fabulous Liz Robinson. Liz, where are you? And Bill Hart. Bill, are you here? Hi, thank you, Bill. Thank you for your support, service, and enthusiasm about our fest. I must also thank our many donors who are here tonight for their spectacular generosity, and our host families who are housing the dozens of filmmakers who have made their way to Middlebury, and our many volunteers, so well trained by Jordan Mitchell, who will be assisting and guiding you over the next 4 days. A round of applause, please, for everybody. And now to our filmmakers. Jay and I salute you for your courage, your vision, your persistence in the face of a global pandemic that has created so many difficult and gut-wrenching challenges. You stayed committed to your art, you did the work, and you delivered. We are genuinely grateful for the opportunity to show your fine films here at the Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival. Filmmakers, please stand and accept our thanks for coming here and inspiring all of us. So we are always looking for new ways to connect with the global filmmaking community, and I'd like to take a minute to highlight something quite unique and beautiful that is taking root here at MNFF. The American Indonesian Cultural and Education Foundation, ASEF, headed by my dear friend of over 50 years, Mr. Wayne Forrest, has created a new prize this year, the ASEF Prize for Cross-Cultural Filmmaking. And in partnership with the Bali International Film Festival in Indonesia, the Middlebury New Filmmakers Festival is participating in an exchange of filmmakers, with the prize-winning Indonesian filmmaker attending MNFF and the prize-winning American filmmaker heading to Indonesia to attend the Bali International Film Festival. And tonight, to our great fortune, both filmmakers are here, Mr. Harvan Agustriansya and Ms. Angie Klum. Their films will screen as part of a special ASEF event right here at Town Hall Theater on Friday, beginning with Sugar on the Weaver's Chair, Harvan's excellent narrative film at 11:30 a.m., followed at 2 p.m. by Nomad Meets the City, Angie's splendid documentary. Also joining us tonight, representing the Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia, is Herhayu, the Consul for Information and Culture. Welcome. It's very good to have you here. So in between, this is great. In between the screenings on Friday, remember 11:38 and 2 p. There will be a reception supported by the Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia in the alley here, right next to Town Hall Theater. A delegation of diplomats, including the Consul General, will attend, and Indonesian food, courtesy of Chef Yono from Albany, will be provided. The reception is free and open to all. Could I ask Wayne Forrest, Harvan, Agustriancia, Angie Club, and Herpayu to please stand and accept our gratitude and thanks for making this happen. This should be very cool, folks, this whole event. And by the way, Harvan had a long journey from Jakarta yesterday, and we are so delighted to have him here in Middlebury on his first visit to the United States. So these will be but two of the 120 plus films we're screening at MNFF 7. Some of you may have already sampled our movies earlier today as the festival kicked off. Over the next 4 days, you'll find us on 5 screens at 4 locations in 4 time slots, including our new early bird 9 a.m. screenings. You'll see us at 2 new venues, the splendid Robinson Hall at Mahaney Art Center on the Middlebury College campus, and under the tent at beautiful Swift House Inn in the evenings only. There'll be special guests here, including the great documentary director Sam Pollard, screening a pair of his films, the acclaimed casting director Heidi Levitt, joining Jay for a screening of one of her films, and a lively coffee session on Saturday morning at the Middlebury Inn patio, and the wonderful actor Karen Allen, here Saturday and Sunday to screen a couple of her favorite classics, including a 40th anniversary screening of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. There will be many stimulating Q&As to attend, along with 2 terrific panel discussions here at Town Hall Theater, one tomorrow afternoon and one Friday afternoon, and of course the VSO performance of the music from the animated short 2 Balloons on Friday afternoon at Robinson Hall. Plus, our happy hours. Oh, did I skip a page?
Happy hours are good.
Oh, well. Anyway, there's much to sample and relish, all in your own way. So look at your programs, check the schedule, have a good time. Now, speaking of our schedule, many of you have seen it on our new website in recent weeks. After 6 years of service, our first website just wore out and needed a makeover. So I'd like to thank our amazing graphic designer, Matt Haywood from the Image Farm, and our web developers, Guerrilla Web Studios, for their imaginative work in producing a new site that is, I think, it's a pleasure to visit. Matt, are you here, and could you stand for a robust round of applause? Are you here, Matt? And speaking of new, we invite you to check out the reimagined and vibrant MNFF merch and info store right next door at the old diner building. Now occupied by Giving Fridge, the building will house filmmaker registration, MNFF festival programs, our really cool hats and tote bags, and a great pop-up version of Sweet Cecily, the wonderful retail store located in downtown Middlebury and an MNFF sponsor. Nancy Dunn, the store's owner, who's with us tonight, has stocked her pop-up with a whimsical and diverse assortment of really well-priced gift items that you can take home as a reminder of your time at the fest. In addition, Giving Fridge's Bethany Farrell will have a wide variety of beautiful plants that can be purchased with the proceeds going to her related nonprofit organization. And when you drop in, there'll be cider donuts, peaches, and fresh apple cider, courtesy of our sponsor, Champlain Orchards. It's a very cool and visually stimulating setup. So please visit the store, buy a little something, have a little nosh, and support all the organizations that made this happen. Thank you so much. Speaking of nosh, restaurants in town have been contending with a pronounced shortage of staff in recent weeks, and many have had to alter their hours of operation. So please be sure to check their websites or the signs on their windows for current hours, and do make your dinner reservations if you intend to eat out. There are two interesting opportunities for you to know about. First, finally, I have convinced our friends at Otter Creek Bakery to provide a trio of nice grab-and-go bag lunches on Thursday and Friday, featuring their most popular sandwiches. Many of you in the past have lamented the long lines that sometimes form at lunch here in town, so Otter Creek is stepping up with a solution that will save you time. Please be sure to patronize them if you want a grab-and-go sandwich. They should be delicious. So thank you to them. And second, tomorrow night, from 5:30 to 7, our friends at the Arcadian Restaurant will be staging a prefix dinner deck party, a dining event for festival pass holders only that will feature a delicious selection of light dinner fare and a drink of one's choice for $30, tax included. Access to the deck party will be on a first-come, first-served basis, and again, it's only available to Fest Pass holders. The restaurant will not be open to the public tomorrow night. There'll be music by local favorite Dave Huckett. That's from 5:30 to 7 tomorrow, and we thank Matt and Caroline Correnti and their team at the Arcadian for offering this innovative dinner event. Thank you to them. And finally, a quick mention of what's coming up for MNFF after the festival concludes. MNFF Selects, our monthly in-person movie series, will resume in October here at Town Hall Theater and run through next May. Stay tuned for more information on dates and specific films, but I think I can break a little news tonight that our theme for the series will be the rich and heartfelt relationship between humans and animals and the telling of their stories that move us. We hope to see you at MNFF Selects this year. Conditions permitting, the MNFF Vermont Tour will resume this winter on the first weekend in February as we barnstorm the state with screenings of a pair of feature films from this festival in 7 or 8 towns around Vermont. And the MNFF Franklin Film Development Fund will soon be announcing its 4th recipient of a $10,000 matching grant to an MNFF alumni filmmaker whose feature narrative script was selected by a panel of experienced screenwriters. All of you filmmakers here tonight who are new MNFF alums, you will all be eligible to submit a script in the next round beginning later in the fall. And now it's time for tonight's really, truly brilliant opening night film, the warm and intimate and insightful documentary Storm Lake, directed by Jerry Ricius and Beth Levison, one of the festival's most prolific and cherished contributors. And following the film, please stay for the Q&A featuring the film's central figure, Art Cullen, who I really had a nice I had a lovely breakfast with Art today, a gentleman and a gentleman. Following, I mentioned, and also director Beth Levison and editor Rachel Schumann, and moderated, of course, by Jay Craven. And afterwards, do join our hosts Serena Kim and Matthew Robinson at Swift House Inn for our traditional opening night party, this year outside under the big tent. But first, a short film to stir your emotions a bit, directed and produced by our MNFF videography team of Dan Levesque and Monroe McLaren. Thanks again to all of you for your support and for attending our Comeback Festival. We deeply appreciate it. Enjoy the show. Where art thou?
I'm sorry, we're on deadline, 30 for the page, so yeah, I appreciate that, thanks. Bye.
Morris press release is coming out from the police about the building. Tom, where?
Hello.
Take a glitch.
We're just waiting for Art.
Okay. Well, here it comes. No? Yes. No. Well, we can start. Why don't we start, and we'll welcome Art when he gets here. First of all, congratulations. This film won the Audience Award at the American Film Institute, also Best Documentary at the Provincetown Film Festival. So,
I just want to say it was so moving to screen this with all of you tonight. You know, we filmmakers really live to show our films to audiences. It's something we've really been deprived of. You were an incredible audience, and I just want to thank Jay, I want to thank Lloyd and all of you and the McKennas for sponsoring this screening. Thank you so much, really. Yeah.
thank you. you. That, in fact, I think has been here more than any other filmmaker as a producer. And I was also a graduate of Millbury College. And here you are as both a producer and a director. And this is your first directing? No? Okay.
No, I directed another film like 10 years ago.
Well, congratulations. Maybe we can start there just in terms of what brought you to the story.
Yeah, so I just want to acknowledge that my directing partner on the film, Jerry, could not be here, really wanted to be here, had a family issue. So Jerry Rishas, who also shot the movie, is a native of Iowa and from a town called Buffalo Center, which is about an hour from Storm Lake. And he grew up on a hog farm. And he was visiting his parents who still live there and learned of a local journalist who won the Pulitzer and felt like, oh wait, this normally goes to journalists with the Washington Post or the New York Times or the Baltimore Sun or whatever. And so he decided to go and meet Art and went with his camera. And it's funny because some of that footage, and he went and shot what we call a scout, right? An initial shoot with Art, and it wasn't meant to be a professional shoot, and there was dirt on the lens, and it wasn't that well shot, but it was just sort of, you know, first take, and he was just really taken with the story. I was working on some other films. Jerry and I teach together at the School of Visual Arts in New York, and Jerry said, hey, I know about this story, and maybe you want to work on it with me, and I was just super busy. And then, where is he? And then in July of 2018, there was a guest editorial in the New York Times, and it was called In My Town We Need Immigrants. And it was this incredible editorial, and Jerry called me. Okay, here he is.
Freshen it up a bit. Oh, lovely. Oh, thank you. We'll save it for the funeral.
So anyway, Art's heard this. How did we come across the story? So I was saying how Jerry came and met with you, and then Jerry was trying to get me onto the story, and then so Art wrote this editorial in the New York Times. Jerry called me and said, you got to read this editorial, and I did, and it made me cry. And then I looked at Jerry's sample, and I really hadn't looked at it before, to be honest. And then I said, okay, let's do it. And that was 2018, and that was the beginning.
And Art, when you were approached to become the center of attraction here for this movie, what was your response?
Well, my response was, of course, because you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. If we nose into people's business, then people can nose into our business. So it was great.
Something I'm interested, maybe just to reflect on for a minute. You began this work in 1980s with the newspaper?
Yeah, I graduated from college in 1979 in the first post-Watergate class. And then we started the newspaper in 1990. My brother John did. And then he started in June, and I came home in September. I was working at a daily newspaper at the time, elsewhere in Iowa. And so we started in 1990 as a weekly.
Okay, and so 1990 seems like an eternity ago, even though it wasn't, but the world was quite different.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, computers were emerging, but there was no internet, and there was no sort of online, even cable television was not really fully penetrated around the United States. So I'm wondering if you think about then and now, you know, just in terms of how the newspaper saw its mission, how it felt its connection to the community, and how that sense today, where you feel it is within your grasp.
Well, I don't think our sense of community has changed at all. And what's changed is is social media. That's the essential difference. And that people are getting most of their information now from Facebook, and most of it's crap. And
It's not that good.
yeah, okay. Smells like. And that's the real difference. And it's what's undone our business model, and it's what's causing this crisis in civic engagement, and it's causing, Chuck Grassley is wrong. He said, it's the news media that's creating this division. It's not. It's Chuck Grassley that's creating this division.
So, excellent. Well, follow-up question to that. So I think you identify the importance of a newspaper as the connective tissue in a community. That the community that does not have it does not have a full sense of itself. Where it is, when it is, who it is, really. And so when you identify the number of newspapers, Beth and Rachel, that have ceased to exist, and the gap that leaves, ironically at a time where it seems more important than ever to be connected and to build communities where there is dialogue and where there is progress and where there is an ability to affect where we're going. And so I guess one question is, what does is there a sense of urgency that you feel in your community as a means of support? And is there any sense of next steps to take to try to bring these elements back into a more unified dialogue, consensus building process? I think it's a national question. I think any good film, in focusing on intimate specificity of one place, can render themes that are universal, and I think this film does that. But it's a huge question that really stands at the center. So, in thinking of what would you, if you could make something happen, or what do you think the elements are in play that will lead us to a next step that will reinforce some of those connections?
Well, that's a deep subject. I don't know that if people felt the urgency, our circulation would be 5,000, not 3,000. And so I don't think that people do feel the urgency, especially when turnout in school board elections is about 10%. And what was the turnout in the presidential election? Was a record at what, 70% maybe? Was it even 70? So no, I don't think people feel the urgency. And I think that, somehow we've got to unloose this grip of social media on our civic conversation, and I don't know how you do that in the context of the First Amendment and everything else. So I think we just have to try harder. And that's an unsatisfactory answer, I realize, but the Stormlight Times needs to try harder. I need to try harder. We need to put out a better product. We need to become more relevant. And but we've been trying that for 30 years. And so I'm sorry to say I don't know the answer.
Of course, newspapers generally pose the questions also, which is one of the useful roles that they play. But yes, the answers can be elusive. So for Beth and Rachel, in making the film, what was unexpected for you once you went into this world? What were some of the themes, takeaways that really affected you and your thinking about this subject?
Well, I think one thing that was unexpected, I think unexpected for all of us, is we knew when we were filming that we were in a meatpacking town, right? We knew that Tyson's was there, and we knew there was a large population there that worked in the meatpacking plants. I think we had no idea that Storm Lake would become the place it became once COVID hit. And so that was really so upsetting on so many levels to be, so close to it. I think also sort of what you're talking about in some ways is, I think we went in and we thought we were making a film about, the Cullen family, a newspaper, and a community, and that's what we were really working on. But as the film went on, we really started to see how what it is like a microcosm of what's going on, in our country at large. It's it touches on macro themes through this like really micro lens. And I think we were very sort of very inspired by that, and how do we continue to unpack that? So I think those are two things that come to mind for me. Rachel was really combing through also all the footage, so did an amazing job, didn't you? Did like an amazing job.
To work with, so.
Yes.
What were your surprises?
I mean, one thing that did surprise me was a moment when I realized that the meatpacking plant, which I normally would just immediately be like, oh, they're evil, but I was like, wait, they're employing all these immigrants in this town. And it really complicated the issue for me, because I was like, wait, I can't just dismiss them because they are giving so many immigrants a livelihood. Now you could say like, well, why is that the livelihood that they can have? But they have made a very vibrant community in this place, and it's breathed new life into Storm Lake, bringing, the population as Pete Buttigieg talked about. And so I think the interconnectedness, I was telling this to Art earlier, like the interconnectedness of the themes, because we kept talking about all the themes of agriculture, climate, immigration, and there was this way, at first they seemed a little bit separate, they all affected Storm Lake, but then it was just this like, oh, it's just like this big domino effect and I think like also John Snyder, the older farmer, he was like this sort of connective tissue for me in a way, because it's like, here's this guy who can't run his family farms anymore because of vertical integration of agriculture, but that vertical integration and like, one company takes over, but then it employs all these hundreds of other people in Storm Lake. So there just didn't seem like an easy answer. And like Art says like, well, what happens if you blow it all up? And he's like, I don't know. And so I was just surprised by how complicated it was.
One of the really heartening things I felt in watching the film was people who disagreed with you politically but were reading the newspaper, and the woman in particular who gave thoughtful consideration to what you had to say. How great that would be to be widely practiced. But it seems to me also, Art, in your embrace of immigration in this small Midwestern town, let's just think about that for a moment. That in itself is unusual. And it seems to me that it would contribute very positively in a very charged and difficult environment to rendering this population as present with a face and a voice and a meaningful representation and participation as the community. And just reflect on that a little bit. I'm sure there's also been some backlash on that question.
I got 2 words for you: Steve King. The most racist son of a bitch that ever came out of the state of Iowa, and he was our congressman for 20 years, and said that he wouldn't meet any gays in heaven, and we got rid of him. He's gone. And he got beat by the Republican primary, and we were on his ass for 20 years, and we finally got rid of it. We've done this next. But, we we take a contrary point of view, first because it's the right thing to do, and second because it's interesting. And you know, I like to read the Wall Street Journal's editorials because they're diametrically opposed to mine and my opinions, and so it's invigorating for me. And so I think I don't know if I'm answering your question, but with immigration, it's just our responsibility to bring people together and not drive them apart. And Steve King wanted to ship them all back to Mexico or Honduras or El Salvador, Guatemala, or Myanmar. And you know, the only hope that Storm Lake has is immigration. You know, you've got this beautiful community with the Green Mountains and you know, obviously a lot of wealth. And Iowa's draining out of people. You know, it's the second most elderly state in the country behind Florida.
Vermont must be third.
Yeah, probably. So, you know, there's probably a lot of similar issues. It's just that Storm Lake's income is clearly not, you can see it in the communities, just on a cursory glance. And so immigration is vital to Storm Lake, and that's what's really important to us is our community. And without them, we're dead.
Do you feel a tangible result of the fact that the paper has been inclusive in terms of the attitude in the community itself to embrace the immigrant population?
Absolutely. It really started in 1996 when there was a big raid. Well, in fact, that's when Julio was gone. And at that time, Steve King and Tom Tancredo and Louis Gohmert and Michelle Bachman were all, and the Federation, or FAIR, I can't remember what it stands for, it's a xenophobic group, anti-immigrant group, and they were all attacking Storm Lake because it was this, you know, it was symbolic of this cauldron of battle. And so the newspaper said, "The hell with it, you know. These are our neighbors, you know. These are our new neighbors. We got to treat them, you know. What about the Iowa Nice, you know?" And so yeah, we raised hell about it, and the entire community came out and said, "No, we do not." There were ads running from FAIR showing that Storm Lake was this crime-ridden, deteriorating hellhole. And in fact, the images came from Flint, Michigan, for the ad. And chained up factory gates and all that. And, you know, Tyson was booming. So it was all, you know, fake news was long before Donald Trump. And we said, you know, this is bullshit. And we went on about it, and it caused it, and I'm not taking credit for it because we were reflecting the community, but the entire community said, no, this is not who we are, and we're not going to take this crap. And since then, Storm Lake has been very strongly united around the idea of diversity. And I think it's evident when you in the film.
Yeah.
You know, I'm tremendously proud of it.
Yeah, no, I think it is. It's and it shows one of the constructive roles that the newspaper can play to unite a community, to bring the community in touch with itself, and to work through what is, if you're looking at the national conversation, a difficult issue on a local level to be able to cut through it. I think is really exemplary, and you know, a huge service that the newspaper obviously plays. The end of the credits talk about this coalition that is forming or has formed to ensure the future of journalism in the area. And exactly how does that work, and how will it bring these groups together?
Thanks for asking. That's my segue. The Western Iowa, it became clear to us that advertising, during the pandemic especially, became clear to us that advertising wasn't going to float the boat anymore. And so we decided to start this nonprofit foundation that could accept donations and then give grants to independent family-owned newspapers in Western Iowa, which is the least populated part of the state, most rural. And where most of the, the newspapers are having the hardest time. And so that's what really drove us to, we've lost about $100,000 a year in advertising since 2018, and per year. We had 2 car dealers drop when Detroit decided that they didn't want to use local print anymore. And so our Chevy and Ford dealers that used to run full-page ads every week canceled. And that was $70,000. That was the same year we won the Pulitzer. And so we lost $70,000 that year. And then the next year, insurance went up, health insurance went up $44,000. So there's over $100,000 that we had to make up. So we need to make up $100,000 a year in circulation revenue and in donations, not tax-deductible donations to the Western Iowa Journalism Foundation. And then an independent board that doles out the money back to the newspapers to support, for example, reporting on agriculture and climate change, or to do reporting on immigration. And so we're hoping that that'll be able to support these newspapers into the future and give us a bridge to reader revenue. We don't believe that advertising is going to be there, and that readers are going to need to pay for news. And that's a difficult hill to climb. And so we're trying to raise money, and so if there's any really filthy rich people in the audience, please see me afterwards.
And then talk to Lloyd. And just a brief follow-up on that. And so La Prensa, which is the Spanish language newspaper that's serving the same area, essentially, yes, you guys have joined forces, essentially, which is exemplary in another way. That to instead approach it as a competitive situation, you're working together to ensure a news voice for the entire community.
Yeah, as the movie notes, Lorena said, we wouldn't have been talking 15 years ago. We'd have been spit at each other, and we can't do that anymore. We got to work together to save these newspapers. And I might add, the newspaper here looks really healthy, which is a very, very much a credit to the community. It really speaks to the level of support that the community has for civic engagement, I think. I don't know anything about Middlebury, other than they got a great college. And it's a beautiful community, but, when you see that paper, that you realize that this is a happening place.
And there's no question. I actually live 2 hours away from here in the Northeast Kingdom of Vermont, but the Addison Independent is an exemplary paper whose community invests in it and reads it and responds. And as a filmmaker or an arts person, for example, a town that has a newspaper can support a dynamic community program in arts or film or cultural areas, because they communicate it out, they validate it, they endorse it, and without that, frankly, community efforts like that can fall flat pretty easily. And just for a moment, tomorrow afternoon at 4:30, we're going to have a conversation on stage here with Art and with representatives from the Addison Independent, Vermont Public Radio. Erica Heilman will be here, and a number of others from Charlotte Bridge, Maggie Cassidy from Vermont Digger. So I would encourage people to come, and we'll continue some of this conversation.
Who's the king? Other than Elvis, who's the king who came to him up there?
That's a longer conversation.
Is that where Elvis is?
That's right, yes. Don't tell anyone. Anyway, so that, in terms of, I know, and we also want to open up for a question or two from the audience, but terms of the life of the film and where it is going to go, first of all, I noticed in the funding credits, you have turned over every stone there is in terms of particularly national funding from ITBS and from important foundations and the rest. And so there clearly was a huge mobilization effort to get this film supported. Where will it go? What are you thinking at this point?
So we have really big plans. We are having our national festival run, so this is part of it, and we're continuing to tour around the country with the film, or the film is going around the country. On September 16th, we are premiering the film in Iowa in Storm Lake, red carpet premiere screening. We just confirmed the red carpet yesterday, which is very exciting.
Don't trip on it.
And then we're doing a Midwest theatrical run. So we're showing theatrically in about 6 cities in Iowa, and then we're going to Detroit, Chicago, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, and some other cities. And what we're doing in every city where we're showing the film is we're partnering with a local newspaper, because we really want the film to spark conversation between communities and their papers so that they understand each other, the struggles that each is having, so that they can also support each other. And then we're having a massive community screenings campaign on top of that from about mid-October to mid-November. We have 70 screenings in the US planned already. And then we are having our national broadcast on November 15th on Independent Lens. So we're really, we have to eat our Wheaties.
Yeah.
But it's really wonderful, so yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And Rachel, how many hours of material did you start with when you began editing this film? It was filmed over 2 years, yes?
Yeah, unfortunately, I just cannot answer that. Did Jerry say like 300 hours or something?
He told me
He told
that.
you 300? I don't, there were like something like 74, 75 shoot days. It was pretty massive, I would say. There was a lot of material, archival material, hours.
So 300 hours of material for an hour-and-a-half long film. And what did you see as the principal challenges in shaping?
Well, I mean, there were a lot of layers. I mean, as Beth said, you know, primarily it was, you know, the people, the paper, the people being the family, the newspaper itself, and then the community. Weaving all of that together along with our themes and making them all connect and flow, and there were a lot of dots to connect. I mean, I think that most importantly, and even watching it now for the first time in a theater, I was happy to feel the physical presence of the paper, which of course we owe to our graphics team and the creative minds of Jerry and Beth, but like working all of us together to think about this, how to get the physicality of the newspaper, you know, into this two-dimensional, you know, surface of the film. And so that was a big challenge too, because we thought about different ways of doing that, and there was a lot of discussion. Like, we didn't want to just like scan it in and have it be a flat image. So it was a lot about working with the physical newspaper itself, and just getting that timing right and lining up with the text. And so that was, in a craft way, that was one of the biggest challenges.
You could smell the ink.
What did you say?
You could smell the ink watching the film. There was a wonderful sense of the physicality of the newspaper as something tactile that is put together, you know, with hands. It's handmade, and that itself, I think, was a wonderful touch in the film, the way that was detailed.
Can I say one last thing? And also just, we were so fortunate because you came on board in January of 2020, and we were still in production in 2020. So we have this ability to be editing the film while we were still filming, so we could really see also what themes were emerging and what story was really coming forward. And then as we continued to shoot, we could really develop that. So that was something I always felt that we were, like, that we could really build the film that way. I think it really benefited the film. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, go ahead. I just wanted to add one little thing. I once heard Ken Burns, who's not a bad documentary producer, say that the art of documentaries is the art of reduction. And, nobody realizes that there's an editor cutting it from 300 hours down to 85 minutes. And nobody knows there's copy editors working nights at the Rutland Herald, getting Mayor Tucker's name spelled right. And so I think it's important to recognize those unseen editors. We
Any
get
other
by on
editors out in the audience? Thank you. Our editor to editor.
Do we have a question from the audience, though? Back there.
Oh, man. First of all, I want to nominate Peach the news hound. Magnificent. But what I'd like to redirect or change directions a little bit, ask about the music, because I thought the music was a wonderful choice, and Andrew Bird is just terrific at how that worked itself out.
Yes, so from the very start, we were using Andrew Bird's music as temp. What we call temp is when it's your temp track, temporary track. And we just loved it. It felt really organic I think the Coens are a little quirky sometimes. They have that quirkiness, but it's real salt of the earth, and it's so emotional. I don't know, it just has like so much going on. And so we were using that music, and then when we were interviewing composers to create the score, we kept on saying, we're looking for something kind of Andrew Birdian, which no artist wants to hear, like, oh, we want you to sound like this other artist. And then actually, for those, Beth Ala, who made in Boise here last year, her film was here, she happened to know Andrew Bird's manager. And so I said, I don't normally I keep a separation between church and state on projects, but I said, Beth, would you mind introducing me to Andrew Bird's manager? It's actually one of my favorite stories. So anyway, I sent her our materials. She got right back to me. She said, I'm going to talk to Andrew. And then it was like, we had actually gone to contract with another, we hadn't signed it, fully executed. We'd sent the contract to another composer. It was a Saturday in like June or July of 2020, and I was literally doing the laundry, like folding my son's underwear, and the phone rings, and it's Andrew Bird's manager, Andrea. She's really great, and she said, I've got Andrew on the line, and he wants to talk to you. And I was so completely starstruck, and it was so embarrassing. But he said, my grandfather had a farm in Iowa, and I grew up going there. It's right across from Dubuque. And he said, the representation of Iowa is always of these MAGA, hat wearing, Make America Great Again, this whole culture, but there's actually this progressive, real strong streak through Iowa, and you've captured that, and it really matters to me. And he said, so I'm going to do your score. And so I said, but I don't have a lot of money. I'm like, are you sure? And he said, I'm doing your score. So we really feel like, and in fact, the end credit song, which he gave to us, which is the county remains dry, was actually written about Iowa. So, we really wanted the film to feel authentically Iowan. Jerry's not here, born and bred in Iowa. And then to have the composer like Andrew Bird doing our score, we felt like it really brought it all together and raised the production values. And it was just a really amazing collaboration. So it was great. Yeah, thank you for noticing that.
Yeah. Do you have time for one more?
Yeah,
One last
take one more.
question.
Good, you, Neil?
Second
Go
row.
ahead.
Lloyd's calling.
We'll take two more. Michael, and then Neil. Go ahead, Michael.
Jay, since you talked about dialogue and consensus and art, since you talked about the Rutland Herald, I've been thinking about this with the Herald because the Herald has taken on a lot of contentious issues of late because they are in the community around a racist mascot, around critical race theory. And we're seeing this across the country. Curious if you've thought, I'm sure you have, about newspapers' next role, and I'm using as an analog public libraries and how they're redefining themselves in terms of how they're bringing together the community in new ways. Our library in Brandon is certainly doing that. And is there a role for newspapers to convene for the purpose of this consensus building dialogue process, perhaps even in an advocacy role around conflict prevention or conflict resolution? You know, you host conversations. Is there a more active role that newspapers should take on, using the library's continual metamorphosis as the precedent for the new role a newspaper could play in convening dialogue for the purpose of bringing communities even closer together? So that's my question.
Well, I think that's always really been kind of the function of the editorial page, I'd like to think, is, you know, that's a forum where people could come together and respectfully air issues, and then there's an editor there to vet it, unlike Facebook or other social media. And so it's there for the community to use if they choose to use it, but maybe we are too archaic in our form to fully capitalize on that. So we're starting to explore more interactivity through digital media, you know, our website, but you know, it's our print edition that still feeds the bulldog, and I think that conversation historically has taken place on the opinion page, and we have. That's another real problem with newspapers right now, is that they're eliminating editorial pages. And I think that's a huge and tragic mistake. And because they don't want to piss off anybody. And I think that the future of newspapers, I think, is in investigative reporting and editorial writing, really. And you know, that if it's not snarky opinion or caustic, but it's informed opinion that seeks to build a community, I think that's the future of newspapers in investigative reporting.
All right, Neil, bring it home.
Yeah, thank you. The film talked about the industrialization of agriculture as a theme. The same thing seems to be happening in print journalism. I'm thinking about the Des Moines Register, which when David Crichton was publishing and Michael Gardner was there.
You even know how to say David Crichton's name. I'm impressed.
From Iowa. Then the Gannett Corporation bought it and turned it into everything else that the Gannett Corporation has. There is no editorial writing anymore. All of the journalists have left except Reka Basu, who I'm sure you know. Now you're
At one time, only one paper in the country had won more Pulitzer Prizes than the Des Moines Register, and that was the New York Times.
Exactly. Now you have an advantage because you are very close to your readership. How does print journalism survive the industrialization of print journalism?
It's not surviving it, and the Register is a prime example. Their circulation when David Crichton was publisher was, on Sunday, was close to 500,000. Now it's under 60. And it's because they've gutted the paper. And the New York Times, the Minneapolis Star Tribune, the Boston Globe, all, which by the way are independently owned. The Sulzberger family owns the New York Times, Glenn Taylor owns the Star Tribune in Minneapolis, and John Henry owns the Boston Globe and the Boston Red Sox. And they're all doing well because of it. They have nice markets and they're independently owned. And Gannett still has about $300 million of debt, I think, to chew through. I'm not at all encouraged for these regional newspapers that are owned by chains. I think they're going to die, and they are dying. And I don't know how you know, Alden Capital, which is a vulture fund, vulture capital fund, you know, owns a bunch of these newspapers now, and you know, they're bleeding them to death, and it is a certain death. But the encouraging thing is that places, things like the Texas Tribune has started up. It's an all-digital product in Texas with the fall of the Austin American Statesman and other great newspapers in Texas. MidPost, after the Star Tribune filed bankruptcy before Glenn Taylor bought it, MidPost was founded to be a local news alternative to the Star Tribune. And, you know, there are websites that are cropping up that are, you know, trying to fill that local journalism hole, and I expect that something's going to happen in Des Moines, because the Register is just a shadow of its former self.
Well, thank you all for a fabulous film, a good discussion. Congratulations again to you on your Pulitzer Prize. And we'll see you around for our panel tomorrow afternoon. I'm sure Art will be happy to talk to people as the festival progresses. So thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.